what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Trials Out Podcast. I'm your host, Leo, and I thank you guys for coming and checking out my content, man. Today's episode is going to be mainly focused on my drug use and how I progressed throughout my life. Certain things that led me to keep doing drugs, and how it definitely accelerated my criminal behavior. And I've been around drugs all my life, like I'm sure that a lot of people have that have lived that lifestyle or have certain, family members that live that lifestyle. It just comes with the territory. But my drug use started, man, when I was like 12 years old. Just seeing older homeboys and older family members selling dope and doing dope. And if you guys have heard in my previous videos how I used to live in a trap house pretty much. So it was like an every night thing, you know what I'm saying? You go into one bedroom, people are smoking foils. You go into the bathroom, people are doing lines, and it was just almost every night. And eventually, I fell into it, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the feeling that it gave me, especially when I left school. When I left school was when it started kicking up a little bit more, because I didn't have nothing to do, wasn't going to school, so I just be doing dope all day. And this was like 13, 14 years old, mind you. So it definitely played with my psyche, at the time, not sleeping for 2 days, going and committing these crimes, and I think it helped me sometimes when I just didn't want to think about certain things. I'll just go get high and do some missions or something like that. But it even it continued into, like, I don't want to say that the reason why I was doing drugs was to cover up the pain, because that's a cop out. Because a lot of the times I was using that just to get me, like, all right, man, get me hyped up, like I'm gonna go commit this crime, we're gonna go do this shooting. And it would get me accelerated. It got you to the point where you didn't care about what you were doing. And this is why I'm doing this video, because it's like, man, and I know a lot of kids are gonna experiment in drugs and things like that. It's just curiosity, but I'm just here to share this because it definitely played a big part into my decisions, being all doped up like that. And it definitely it masked a lot of the feelings that I had at the time. When instead of sharing them and asking people for help, I was asking the dope man for dope, and that was at 13, 14 years old. But I also hung around with a lot of older cats, you know what I'm saying? And maybe they should have told me a little bit better, but I'm not here to blame nobody, man. I knew what I was doing, and I knew exactly what it was going to do to me. So I'm not here to place a blame. Like I've always said in my videos, I take full responsibility for the things that I've done and what goes into my body. So with that being said, so like when I was in prison, right, when I was 16 years old, we went to an adult prison, and they ended up kicking us out of the adult prison and sending us to where the juveniles were at. Well, during this time, since you got to understand, it's a big facility right there at Green Hill, so they got all kinds of kids doing all kinds of time. Some are doing juvenile life, which means you do up until you're 21, then you get released. So everybody's ranked bunches, man. Everybody's, we're kids, so we don't have nothing else better to do than to be sitting there causing trouble. So we found out this hack pretty much, that if we went and told the counselors that we couldn't sleep, we're having nightmares and things of that nature, that they would give us sleeping pills. But in there you could sell them, if you can get away with because I will get to that. But so they were prescribing us Seroquel, right? And they were prescribing us Seroquel like 200 milligrams. Man, that was my first experience with like an opiate, right? Like I was always, when I was on the streets and even when I got in prison, I was always a person. I like uppers. I didn't like downers. I didn't like oxycontins and heroin and things like that. I was always like on the go, ready to go commit crime. So I needed that upper. And so when they prescribed me the Seroquel, because I was like, oh fuck, I wanted to just get away from the reality that I was in at the time. Doing all at the time, I think I was 17, so I still had like 11 years on my sentence. Originally, I got charged for 12. Excuse me. Originally, I got charged and got sentenced to 12 years. Then they dropped it down to 10 because I won on a gun case, so I was able to get out in 10. But anyways, so when they put me on that Seroquel, it's like it flatlines you, man. It's a sleeping pill. It's a sleeping aid. So when you take it at nighttime, and you just pass. They give it to like people that are psychotic and people that are depressed and stuff like that, man. And I just think they were just handing them out to us just because they were just like, hey, this is gonna get these guys to calm down. Especially when all of us from the prison system that were charged as adults got sent there, because then they bring in a little bit of the prison politics and things like that. Certain kids try to impress people, that were doing adult time, because it's like, oh, you guys are doing adult time, you guys been to prison, so they look up to that in there. But I would always be taking these pills. And I remember my crimey Ray. he was my cellie when I was taking these pills also, man. And I'd be like a zombie, man. I'd take them out and they would just knock you out. The next day you wake up, you don't even know where you're at. You can't even walk to breakfast, man. You gain a lot of weight. You just become very lazy, man. And you don't become motivated to do nothing. And that's what started my journey on those type of drugs, man. And it continued into the prison system when once I turned 18. Once I turned 18, I was in Walla Walla, and one of my homeboys that I used to talk to a lot, he ended up working in the kitchen, right? And in the kitchen, there's certain people that come from the streets that oversee the cooking and things like that. They're called ACs, and he ended up getting romantically involved with one of them, and she was like maybe like 60 something years old. You know what I'm saying? Well, long story short, somewhere down the line, he ended up breaking her to the point where he was able to get her to bring in drugs for us. I mean, she was bringing in weed, heroin, coke. I mean, everything was on the table, man. And that was the first time that I tried heroin. I was working in the chow hall, and the way we did it is we put it on a spoon, put a little bit of water, and I snorted it. I snorted it, and it went, and it tasted like straight garbage, man. I still remember the taste like straight garbage, like sewage. And immediately, maybe like 2 minutes later, I started feeling the effects. Started taking all over my body, and I stayed on heroin. I want to say for like 30 days, man. I was, there was homeboys that were slamming it with needles, but I never went and got that far, because I one of my good friends that was in there, he almost overdosed on that shit. So I was like, nah, man, I'm kind of stayed. But I remember like that was a moment in my life when I was just like, man, I'm trying to get away from this environment that I'm in. And definitely that drug was something that hit me hard, and it continued out even after I got out to the streets. It was. I remember one time when I was in prison during that time, they were getting a lot of dope in, and then another wing of the prison ended up getting some more dope coming in, and so that everybody was doing it. All the homeboys were doing it, and the way it got put to a stop was that eventually, everybody's on the yard walking around like zombies, and I was in the hole at the time. I remember it was maybe 2009. I was doing that 3-year bid in the hole, and all the homeboys were all on dope, man. They were all on heroin, so they were all out there on the yard like zombies. And at the time, there was a big political issue going on with a certain group that were African Americans, and so they decided to move on us, before we moved on them, and they annihilated us, man. Like not us, because I'm not part of that, never happened, but I was a part of the group that got annihilated, man. And those are the effects, man. Like they was we were, a lot of the guys that I hung out with in prison, and they're all a lot of they're, we're all a bunch of drug addicts, man. That was one common thing that we all had in common. So a lot of that, like I said, in prison, it's not the good shit that bonds us together. It's all the bad shit. All the crimes we commit, the drugs that we do, the females and all that, man. That's what we build our foundation on in there, because in there, we run together out of necessity. It's not out of love. Yeah, some people that you mess with in the past, or that for a long time you got love for, but it's a necessity, because a lot of us are killing each other on the streets, which one of the main reasons why I had to walk away from that lifestyle. But yeah, man, drugs has always been a big part of my life like that. After I got out, and it continued, man. Like that was the one thing that once I found out how that drug made me feel, it was like OxyContin, man. I was popping when I first got out. That's when my father died. When my father died is when it amped it up, man. When I just didn't want to feel nothing, people were trying to reach out to me, my phone ringing. I'd pop an OxyContin, man, and I just smoke a bunch of weed, smoke a couple, or drink a couple beers, and everything would go away, like. And I continued like that, man. Like I started getting really bad, but I've always been one of those people that once I wake up, I decide something one day, I'm just not gonna do it. That's gonna be my that's how I am. There's stints throughout my life where I've been like, I just want to stop doing everything. I don't want to do none. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do none of that stuff. I just want to get fucked up. I just want to get, just not feel nothing. And excuse me, man, my dog was over there. She's a French Mastiff, so I was afraid she was gonna drop all this stuff here. But anyways, not to get off track, man. And a lot, when my father died, was one of the worst times of my life, man. One of the darkest times of my life. Just for the simple fact I didn't spend a lot of time with him after I got out. Like I was too busy on the dope. I was too busy on doing drugs and things like that. I never got to the point where I was like dependent on it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just an everyday thing. But I know that I ran to it a lot of the times to mask what I was going through. And that's one thing that I want to share with people, man. Like at the end of the day, like none of that shit, yeah, it's for a little bit, right? It's for a little while where you just feel this like this euphoria where it's like nothing matters, nothing can touch you at that moment. But you got to understand that's just an escape. It's momentarily. It's a momentary escape. A lot of times when I was coming down off them drugs, it would make me, I would feel guilty. I would feel like a piece of shit, man. And so that's how I knew that once I started clearing my mind up, I'm like, obviously I know something's telling me, man, what I'm doing is not right. Especially looking back on how drugs had affected my life. I had a couple cousins already overdosed and died on that shit. And I understand it's a hard thing to, life is hard, man. And it's always nice to have something that's going to get you through the day, but not something that's going to be so detrimental to your health, to your psyche. I know really good people, man, that I can't even recognize anymore. And the funny thing is that when I was growing up, people looked down on us because we used to do coke, right? It's called us crackheads and things like that. We deserved it. But a lot of those people that would do that when I got out, man, they were 10 times worse what I used to be. And I don't know what they went through in their life. You know what I'm saying? Some of us are stronger than others, but that's just a little story, a little something that I want to share with you guys, man. And just to let you guys know that like I said, I know sometimes my videos are quick and I don't not share, but there's a lot of things that I want to say, but I just can't say it in the moment. And then it comes to me later on off of camera. But this is just a little episode, a little something, man, so you guys can see what I was going through in my life, what I have overcome. That's the most important thing, is overcoming those things. And like I said, sometimes you just got to tell yourself it's as easy as just waking up and telling yourself, I don't want to do it no more. But like everything is like in life is not easy, man. It's gonna hurt, especially going through withdrawals and things like that. But yeah, man. So I hope this helps somebody, man. And until next time, man, I'm out.